That night, in the stillness of the West Virginia mountains, 4 children stood frozen, watching a blazing red light fall behind the hill near the school. At first, they thought it was a natural phenomenon, until the ground began to tremble slightly and the air filled with a sharp metallic smell. A group of adults, carrying flashlights, followed the trail of that light. Before their eyes appeared a burned crater in the ground. Through the thick fog, the flickering beams of their flashlights swept across, and suddenly, a figure nearly 3 meters tall appeared, with greenish skin and glowing red eyes like fire. Standing silently in the darkness, their eyes widened in shock, their breaths caught. No one dared to move. The creature made no sound, it only stared, as if observing them. Then a metallic screech rang out, and the whole group fled in terror. But the most horrifying thing was, that was not the last time the creature appeared that night. Some believed they had encountered a visitor from another world, but others whispered that the creature did not come from space, but from secret human laboratories. Today, we will turn back time to the year 1952 to uncover what really happened in Flatwoods and why that incident still haunts people to this day. Flatwoods is a small town located in Braxton County, West Virginia. It is known for the serene beauty of its forests and rolling green hills. Since the mid-19th century, Flatwoods developed as a small settlement surrounded by abundant nature and quiet air. However, amidst that peaceful setting, a strange event occurred, one that quickly made the name Flatwoods known throughout the world. On the evening of the 12th of September 1952, around 7 p.m., 4 children were playing on a grassy field near Flatwoods Elementary School. They were brothers Freddie and Edward May, along with their friends Tommy Heyer and Neil Nunley. As night fell, they played while waiting for dinner, when suddenly, a strange streak of light tore across the sky. It looked like a shooting star, but flew much lower and shone far brighter. Within seconds, the glowing object fell into a farmer's field nearby. Curiosity rising, the children quickly ran home to tell the adults what they had seen. The children's story spread rapidly throughout the small town of Flatwoods, filling everyone with both curiosity and doubt. Without hesitation, 3 adults decided to verify it for themselves. They were Ed and Fred May, the boys' parents, and Eugene Lemon, a member of the U.S. National Guard. That night, they carried flashlights and followed the trail leading up the hill where the children said the strange object had fallen. The air was cold and still, broken only by the chirping of insects and the trembling beams of their flashlights on the damp ground. As they drew nearer, a strong metallic odor began to spread through the air, accompanied by a heavy, uneasy feeling. When they reached the spot, they stood motionless. Before them lay a large crater, still smoldering, the soil scorched, and scattered around were strange markings, as if something massive had crashed violently into the ground. There were no meteor fragments, no traces of a falling star as the children described. Moments later, the group began to feel short of breath, their eyes stinging and their throats burning, forcing them to step back. They all clearly sensed that something was not right. Then suddenly, a strange sound echoed from the dark forest, faint but drawn out, like metal scraping against metal. Eugene raised his flashlight, and when the beam swept across, all 3 froze in horror. In the darkness stood a towering figure, nearly 2.4 meters tall, thin and frail, with pale greenish skin, and most strikingly, a pair of glowing red eyes blazing in the night. It had no human shape, nor did it resemble any animal they had ever seen. Its entire body appeared wrapped in a dull metallic covering, reflecting the flickering light of their flashlights. Each time it moved, it emitted a low, groaning sound, like the breath escaping from a heavy mask. Eugene, a young soldier, later recounted that what he saw looked like a ghost wrapped in metallic armor, standing silently in the forest, staring straight at them. The air grew thick and heavy, and only the sound of their pounding hearts and quick breaths echoed in the darkness. Terrified, The three turned and ran, screaming in panic as they fled. When they reached home, they trembled as they told others what they had witnessed, but many only laughed, believing they must have mistaken some animal in the dark. However, Ed, Fred, and Eugene did not think so. They were certain of what they had seen. The very next morning, they returned to the site, this time accompanied by journalists and several local researchers. They brought cameras, film recorders, and measuring instruments, hoping to find tangible evidence. When they arrived, the scene had changed completely. The grass around the area was scorched, forming large black patches. On the ground were deep indentations, as if something heavy had once pressed down. After hours of searching, one member of the group found a shiny piece of metal under a clump of grass. Kathleen May, who was with the team, bent down and picked it up, believing it could be a fragment from the creature's metallic outfit they had seen on that fateful night. This discovery confirmed for them that what they saw had not been an illusion, it had truly happened. As the sun began to set, darkness quickly spread across the hills of Flatwoods. Kathleen May's group, together with Eugene Lemon and the researchers, suddenly felt a strange presence gradually enveloping the air around them. The atmosphere grew dense and suffocating, carrying that same metallic odor, exactly like the night the creature had first appeared. Then, from deep within the forest, came a faint sound, something like metal scraping, or the noise of something moving among the trees. Relying on his soldier's instincts, Eugene took his flashlight and moved toward the sound, while the others stayed back at a safe distance. Suddenly, a bright red light flared in the distance, piercing through the forest the same light they had seen before. The entire group aimed their flashlights toward the source. And through the misty smoke, the enormous silhouette appeared again, tall, ghostly, moving among the trees. This time, it was no longer floating but walking slowly, each heavy step echoing through the silent night. Its red eyes glowed intensely, reflecting the beams of their flashlights as if following each person in the group. Everyone stood frozen, hearts pounding violently in their chests. No one dared to move. According to Kathleen May, the creature did not act aggressively. It simply stood and observed humans quietly, as if analyzing them. Then suddenly, a loud screech filled the sky. Everyone looked up, and they saw a glowing object hovering above the forest. Red and white lights alternated in sweeping flashes, reflecting off the trees and the scorched ground beneath their feet. At that very moment, the creature turned its head and began moving quickly toward the light above, as if being summoned. Within seconds, both it and the flying object disappeared from sight, leaving behind only absolute silence. No one in the group could speak. Eugene dropped his flashlight, while Kathleen murmured, "We just saw something that doesn't belong to this world." The group returned to town in silence. When the news spread, local authorities immediately sealed off the area and began an investigation, but found no trace of the creature. The burned grass, smoke, and metallic odor had all vanished as if they had never existed. The media quickly got involved. Interviews with the witnesses appeared in newspapers and were broadcast across the region. People discussed the creature's appearance and behavior, the mysterious red light, and the overwhelming terror the witnesses had experienced. The incident caused a nationwide uproar, sparking countless theories and conspiracies surrounding the name the Flatwoods Monster. But that was not all. On the same day, another witness also claimed to have seen a similar creature only a few miles away. Mrs. Audra Harper, a resident living near Flatwoods, recounted that she and a friend had been walking through the Heaters Forest, a shortcut connecting two towns. It was a lonely path, winding through dense, sloping woods. From the moment they entered, both felt uneasy and heavy-hearted, as if something was watching them. Halfway through, a faint hissing sound echoed from afar. The noise grew louder and louder, like something sliding through the trees. The two stopped, listening carefully. At that instant, Audra saw a strange shape in the darkness. According to her, the creature was tall, with a head shaped like a cone or a heart, and its entire body glowed faintly as if hovering above the ground. Its glowing eyes in the dark were something she said she would never forget. Terrified, the two immediately turned and ran, not stopping until they were out of the forest, too afraid to look back even once. They both felt as though something was following them. When she finally reached safety, Audra heard about the May family's encounter. A chill ran down her spine, because what she had seen was identical to their description. In just one night, 2 encounters with the same creature had been reported. And at that moment, the entire town of Flatwoods began to ask the same question. What exactly was that strange being? But the story did not end there. Reports of sightings of the strange creature in Flatwoods continued to increase, plunging all of West Virginia into unease. Among them, the most notable was the account of George and Edith Snitsky, a couple who experienced a terrifying night near the area where the Flatwoods Monster had been seen. That evening, George, Edith, and their infant were driving home after visiting family. As their car passed along a deserted road not far from Flatwoods, the engine suddenly shut off. In the stillness of the night, they were forced to stop by the roadside. George got out to check under the hood, while Edith stayed inside, holding the sleeping baby in her arms. The air suddenly became suffocating and filled with a strong metallic odor, as if something was spreading from the nearby forest. Edith began to feel uneasy. The strange sensation of being watched crept over her. Then suddenly, a bright red light flashed in the distance. She turned to look out the window, and a massive figure slowly stepped out of the darkness. According to Edith, the creature stood about 3 to 4 meters tall, with a long, thin body, glowing red eyes, and its entire form covered in metallic armor-like plating. The reflected light made it look like both a machine and a ghost. Panic consumed the car. Edith screamed for her husband, while George desperately tried to restart the engine but failed. The creature continued moving toward them, gliding smoothly and silently, as if floating just above the ground rather than walking. The metallic stench grew stronger, making it hard for them to breathe. George realized they were in real danger. He jumped into the driver's seat, turning the key again and again, while Edith clutched the baby tightly, tears streaming down her face in fear. The red light from afar reflected off the car windows, casting a nightmare glow across their faces. Just as the creature came within a few meters of the vehicle, something miraculous happened. The engine roared to life. Without hesitation, George slammed on the accelerator. The car sped off into the night, leaving the light and the monstrous figure behind. Even after they had driven far away, both were trembling, stunned, unable to believe what had just happened. George could not explain why the car had stalled and then restarted by itself, while Edith insisted that the glowing red eyes she saw were real. A few days later, when they read about the Flatwoods incident, the Snitskys were struck by how eerily similar the details were: the red light, the metallic odor, and the armored, towering figure. It was then they realized they had encountered the same creature, as if it had stepped straight out of a horror movie. The testimonies from the Flatwoods witnesses quickly became the center of public attention. Newspapers across America published reports, and researchers began asking questions. What exactly was this creature? And was there any reasonable explanation for 3 strange encounters within the same area over just a few days? When all the witness descriptions were compiled, a consistent image began to emerge: a being 3 to 4 meters tall, with a conical or heart-shaped head, glowing red eyes in the darkness, a hovering body, and a metallic odor surrounding it. Clearly, no known creature on Earth matched such characteristics. From here, the extraterrestrial hypothesis was proposed and quickly gained strong support. Those who believed in UFOs claimed that this being did not belong to our planet, but was a life form from elsewhere in the universe. They pointed to overlapping details. Right before the creature was seen, several witnesses in nearby areas had reported a glowing flying object falling behind the school hill. This led many to believe that the shooting star the children saw was actually a malfunctioning spacecraft, and that the being inside was forced to leave it, accidentally revealing itself to humans. This explained why the red light, metallic odor, and the creature's appearance all occurred almost simultaneously, a sequence of signs often associated with UFO encounters around the world. According to this theory, the metallic armor described by witnesses was not clothing, but a kind of protective suit or advanced technological exoskeleton. The metal layer surrounding the body might have helped the being adapt to Earth's atmosphere, or simply shielded it from an unfamiliar environment. Some UFO researchers even suggested that its ability to hover was proof that it used anti-gravity technology, a form of energy beyond human understanding. The glowing eyes and the ozone-like metallic smell in the air might also have been byproducts of that same energy source. These arguments were further supported by the historical context. In the early 1950 seconds, the world was in the midst of a global UFO phenomenon. Across many countries, people reported numerous sightings of flying objects, strange lights, and beings with glowing eyes, all sharing characteristics similar to the Flatwoods case. According to UFO believers, this indicated that the Flatwoods Monster might have been part of a larger pattern, an expedition or research mission by an advanced civilization observing Earth. And if it truly was a living being, the next question arose: why did it behave in a way that frightened humans? Some researchers suggested that the creature had no intention of attacking. The differences in environment, physiology, and communication methods may have made it impossible for it to convey its true intentions. The bright light, sharp odor, and floating movements might have simply been natural defensive reactions, or a way to protect itself from the frightened local people. Many researchers believe that the witnesses' panicked reaction was the very reason the Flatwoods creature did not continue approaching humans. The fact that it left the scene without harming anyone made the theory that it was merely exploring seem even more reasonable. However, like most UFO reports, there has never been any concrete evidence proving that the being truly came from another planet. Because of that, another explanation was proposed, more realistic, but also colder and more frightening. Let's recall the historical context. It was 1952, when the world was still gripped by the tensions of the Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a fierce arms and technological race, especially in the fields of nuclear development and aerospace. Fears of espionage, secret experiments, and covert government projects had become part of everyday American life. At the same time, the U.S. military was expanding its classified research programs in science and warfare, including biological weapons, psychological warfare, and genetic studies. From that context arose another hypothesis. The Flatwoods creature might not have come from space, but from a human laboratory. Some analysts believed that the Flatwoods Monster was in fact a product of genetic mutation created during military experiments for warfare or national security purposes. The 1950 seconds was a period when genetic and biological research was advancing rapidly, and it is not impossible that the military had been experimenting on animals, or even humans, to produce beings with superior endurance. If that were true, the creature seen by the people of Flatwoods could have been the result of a failed experiment, abandoned or escaped from a test site, and accidentally discovered by locals. But in the children's story, there was one detail that could not be ignored: the bright red light and flying object seen before the creature appeared. At that time, the U.S. military was developing a wide range of advanced aircraft technologies, from jet engines and stealth systems to electromagnetic propulsion and magnetic field experiments. Many believed that the unidentified flying object was actually a military prototype, and the Flatwoods creature was either a pilot or a biological subject used to study physiological reactions under special flight conditions. If this theory were true, the government's quick action sealing off the area, collecting evidence, and remaining silent would be understandable. Their goal could have simply been to protect military secrets and prevent the public or foreign powers from learning about ongoing developments. Some witnesses in Flatwoods even claimed that military personnel arrived just hours after the incident, cleaned up the site, and prohibited locals from returning. At that time, Americans lived in constant unease, fearing nuclear war, fearing spies, and fearing what their own government might be hiding. This fear made the Flatwoods case fertile ground for conspiracy theories to grow. Many believed the government was conducting biological, chemical, or radioactive experiments, and that Flatwoods was merely an accident, unintentionally exposed. The symptoms experienced by the May family, burning eyes, difficulty breathing, sore throats, were seen as evidence that they had been exposed to a chemical or mild radioactive substance rather than to a being from another planet. The theory of a secret military experiment surrounding the Flatwoods incident thus became one of the most controversial and fascinating explanations. It combined the darkness of the Cold War with the mystery of the supernatural, shaped by the political and social context of mid-20th century America. This hypothesis not only targeted the Flatwoods creature itself, but also reflected humanity's deep fears and suspicions toward power, authority, and the secrets of the U.S. government during one of the most geopolitically tense eras of the century. Although supported by many, the military hypothesis still faced rejection from the scientific community due to the lack of concrete evidence. So, if none of these explanations were convincing enough, could there be a more scientific answer? From the perspective of perception and psychology, the Flatwoods incident may simply have been the result of misinterpretation under unusual conditions. When humans experience panic in low-light environments, visual perception and the ability to judge size and distance can become distorted. The dark night, dense forest, and flickering flashlight beams all could have caused the witnesses to misunderstand what they saw. Many biologists believe that what the group witnessed might have been nothing more than a large owl. Species such as the barn owl or great horned owl have wingspans up to 2 meters, and their eyes reflect light strongly, creating red or yellow glows when illuminated. When suddenly exposed to bright light, owls often take flight, producing a screeching sound and a gliding motion that could easily make people think they were seeing a giant glowing creature. In a state of heightened fear, after witnessing a strange light fall from the sky, and feeling anxious, the witnesses could have easily interpreted the owl as an extraterrestrial being. The reflection from the owl's eyes may well explain the glowing red eyes described by so many. This phenomenon is known as perceptual bias, when fear or expectation distorts the human brain's interpretation of reality, turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. An ordinary animal can become a monster within seconds of panic. More broadly, the Flatwoods incident is a classic example of how humans react to the unknown. We tend to construct mysterious narratives to fill the gaps where science has yet to provide answers. From the Yeti in the Himalayas to the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland, to the Flatwoods Monster in West Virginia, all reflect human fear, imagination, and the desire to explore the mysteries of the world around us. Interestingly, the Flatwoods event occurred at a time when fears of nuclear war and extraterrestrials were sweeping across America. In that atmosphere of doubt and anxiety, such a strange incident could easily be linked to UFO theories or secret experiments. The coincidence of the falling star and the strange creature was quickly amplified by the media, turning the story into a national sensation. But if all scientific explanations are wrong, and the Flatwoods Monster truly was a visitor from beyond the stars, then perhaps we need to reconsider the very concept of extraterrestrial life in an entirely new way. As the story comes to an end, What remains is not just fear or curiosity, but a reflection of the human mind when facing the unexplainable. The Flatwoods Monster might have been nothing more than an owl spreading its wings in the night sky. It might have been a creature born from a failed military experiment. Or perhaps it truly was a being from some distant corner of the universe. You and I may never know the truth. But it is stories like this that keep us curious, keep us questioning, and keep us searching for answers to the mysteries that have never been solved in the world around us. If you found this video fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue exploring more mysterious stories about UFOs and unexplained phenomena together. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.